Welcome to the August meeting of TV Toastmasters. I'm Rick Davis, the president of TV Toastmasters. I would like to introduce our Toastmaster for today. He's a Toastmaster with NIOSH Cincinnati Toastmasters, Steve Ahrenholz. Steve.
Thank you, Mr. President, fellow Toastmasters, and to our honored guests who are joining us today. Our meeting today is going to give us an opportunity to learn something from one of the Toastmasters Better Speakers series. Actually, I think it's Excellence in Leadership series. I'm sorry. But first, we have a few other things that we like to cover in our meeting. And to start with, we will have Word Power and Joke Master. They're both being presented to us by Carol Kormelink, ATM Silver and Able Leader. I'm going to call Carol up here to share the word of the day with us, and then she'll present her joke. Carol?
Mr. Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, and our most welcome guest at home. Today's word is scintillating. Scintillating means brilliantly lively, stimulating, or witty, especially in conversations. Conversations can be very scintillating. The humor for today is about the English language. It's a crazy language. There is no egg in eggplant, nor ham in hamburger, nor apple, nor pine in pineapple. And there is no zoo in zoology. English muffins weren't invented in England, and French fries aren't French. Sweetmeats are candies, while sweetbreads, which aren't sweet, are meat. We take English for granted, but if we explore its paradoxes, we find that quicksand can work rather slowly, and boxing rings are square. And a guinea pig is neither from Guinea nor is it a pig. And why is it that writers write, but fingers don't fing? And grocers don't groce, and hammers don't ham? And if the plural of tooth is teeth, why isn't the plural of booth beef? One goose, two geese. So is it one moose, two meese? One index, two indices? Does it seem crazy that you can make amends, but not one amend? And if teachers taught, why didn't preachers prot? If a vegetarian eats vegetables, what does a humanitarian eat? And there's even more reasons why the English is a crazy language. In what language do people recite at a play and play at a recital? And they ship by truck, and they send cargo by ship. And they have noses that run and feet that smell. Now, how can a slim chance and a fat chance be the same, while a wise man and a wise guy are opposites? You have to marvel at the unique lunacy of a language in which your house can burn up while it burns down, in which you fill in a form by filling it out, and in which an alarm goes off by going on. English was invented by people, not computers, and it reflects the creativity of the human race, which, of course, isn't a race at all. I hope I've given you some scintillating conversation for the rest of today. Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you very much. And now for our next speaker, Stanley Glitchner.
Speaking in public doesn't have to be a death sentence. At Toastmasters, we can help you overcome your fears.
Thank you, Carol. That is a rather scintillating presentation on the use of English. I think we don't think about it most of the time. We just use it. For the next part of our meeting, we're going to have the opportunity to think on our feet, assemble our response with almost no preparation time. Help me welcome Rick Davis, DTM, and we'll see what type of scintillating topics he is going to ask us today for Table Topics. Rick?
Well, it's been a while since we've had a visit by Dan Lather and the Assault News. So I thought it would be fun to bring people up here and to accuse them of different things and see how they react. Joe, come on up here. I think I understand that you are the inventor of the pet rock, and I heard that you were not treating your pet rocks very well when you were making this fad available to the American public. I heard that you were weaning pet rocks long before they were old enough to be weaned from their mothers.
Well, as an engineer, of course, first thing I do with a disobedient pet rock is I grind it and make cement out of it.
No.
Thank you very much.
The world's shortest table topic. As a youngster, the following person abused chocolate. Carol, would you come up here and tell us how depraved your life was when you were heavily into chocolate?
Mr. Slather, I have one word for you. So? So what? I like chocolate. I love chocolate. They say it's addictive. You can bet your life it's very addictive. When things aren't going well, you eat that piece of chocolate and it goes down. It's so smooth and it just makes all life better at the moment. I love hot chocolate. I love hot fudge sundaes. When I was in the 8th grade, they gave me, as a token of what they remember me by, a bag of chocolate chips because I loved hot fudge sundaes. And I still like hot fudge sundaes. So what if I like chocolate? I like chocolate. Chocolate lovers arise.
All right. This last Friday was the 25th anniversary of Elvis's death. And I have found the only person in the United States who doesn't like Elvis. Steve Ahrenholz, would you come up here and explain why you could not like Elvis?
Thank you, Mr. Table Topics Master. I don't know what the problem is with my not liking Elvis. I mean, he gyrates all over the place, makes you extremely nervous. You have to wonder if he has some kind of neurological disorder. And the music that he produced, well, I know everyone has their own taste in music, but I don't understand what all the hoopla is about his performances. And I just don't know what's the problem with my not liking him, because I think he was the beginning of an era. He didn't last that long, but boy, they certainly are continuing his legacy. Let's give someone else a chance. Mr. Table Topics Master?
Yeah, I heard that Elvis made more money last year dead than he did the whole time he was alive. The following person is a close associate of Pete Rose, and the understanding that I have, the research that I've been able to do, is that she bet with Pete Rose on bingo. Nellie Bowen, would you come up here and explain how you could bet on bingo?
Thank you. This is Tabletopics Master. What is wrong with betting on bingo? If you bet on the horses, and I sure like to bet on my horses, I'm pretty good at it too. My dad and brother were top racers, so you get some inside scoop. Now on bingo, well, it's more or less how the numbers fall, unless you get to the caller first. And now we always have to improve the odds just a little if we can, and I try to in everything I do. Sometimes it's money, sometimes who knows. But if there's any way you can get those odds a little better, I believe in doing it. then bet it for all you're worth. Because after all, isn't it our patriotic duty to make all the money we can so we can pay more taxes to our government? I mean, they're going to need it. They're broke practically. So yes, I bet on bingo. I bet on everything there is out there I think I can win on. Mr. Tabletopics Master.
Well, that's certainly a depraved group that we have today, and I'm turning it back to our Toastmaster because I have to go back and be totally mortified over what I've heard today. Mr. Ahrenholz.
Thank you, Mr. Slather.
I'd like to begin tonight with a little joke. This guy, he's a farmer, and he says, hey, hello, sorry. But seriously, folks,
Speaking in public is no joke.
farmer says, doctor says, chicken says,
For help, call Toastmasters, the public speaking support group.
the chicken.
Now we're to the point where we will have our prepared presentation. I want to, in way of introduction, give you a little bit of background. The world needs strong, competent leaders now more than ever. I don't know if any of you have noticed that. These effective leaders are not only in government and industry, but in our communities and civic organizations as well. Even in Toastmasters, the difference between a successful club and an unsuccessful club is the quality of leadership within it. Leadership abilities are not inherited. Just like communication skills, leadership skills are learned and honed through experience, facing challenges, and learning from failures as well as successes. If you consider past and present great leaders, they are alike in 3 areas. Effective leaders provide a clear direction through their vision, mission, values, goals, and plans. They foster collaboration through team building, delegation, coaching, and a service leadership attitude. Finally, effective leaders motivate achievement by providing feedback, support, and recognition, and by resolving conflicts, because that's one of the things we always encounter as human beings working with others. Toastmasters International's The Leadership Excellence Series is a set of programs that addresses these leadership topics. In today's presentation, Delegate to Empower, we're going to learn about one of these subjects. Leaders cannot accomplish challenging goals alone. They must rely on others to carry out specific tasks or activities. When was the last time you found yourself in a situation where there was more than you could humanly do by yourself? Think of the head of a major corporation. That person cannot possibly do everything in that company. She must rely on vice presidents to oversee different operations. These vice presidents, in turn, rely on department managers to oversee day-to-day operations. If the corporation is successful, you can attribute the success to a leader who knows how to delegate effectively. Today's presentation will be given by Carol Kormelink, ATM, Silver, and Advanced Leader. Carol is also the Loop Division Governor. Let's discover how to delegate to empower. Please join me in welcoming Carol Kormelink.
Mr. Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, and our most welcome guest at home. You do it my way or your replacement will. If you think that's delegating to empower, are you ever wrong? That's what I thought, that a leader told people what to do. When I was volunteering at Tall Stacks, everyone wants to work by the boats. I wanted to work at the plaza because I could tell people what to do and where to go. You want to buy tickets, you go that way. You want to see the boats, you go that way. You need help with the ramp, the wheelchair ramp, you go that way. You need to bust a Milford, you go that way. Well, that is not what leadership is all about. Leadership is about getting people to help you do things. To delegate means the transfer of responsibility for a specific activity or task to another member, and that empowers he or she to accomplish the task effectively. That will help you to work smarter, not harder or longer, to accomplish the task effectively. You could not possibly do, as Steve said, one person cannot possibly do all the jobs that are required in that position. So learning to delegate and delegate effectively not only helps the team, but it empowers when you empower others, you empower yourself. Now there are 5 barriers to delegation. 1 is the lack of confidence in someone else's ability to do the task. This is one that I have a hard time because I know what I can do, but I'm not sure if I give you this task that you will be able to do that. And 2, I'm a control freak, so fear of losing authority and control is a real issue. 3 is vanity. We don't want to share the credit with anyone else. We want to take all the credit ourselves. And 4 is insecurity. Fearing that they may do it so well, they'll take your job. True, you are risking your reputation by relying on others to do the work. However, if delegation is done skillfully, the risk is minimized. And as a leader, you are evaluated not only on how well you perform, but on how well your team performs. And team stands for together everyone achieves more. And the 5th barrier is self-importance. No one can do the job as well as I can do it. I can take that to the home. If your husband is helping you by loading the dishwasher, and you take everything out and reload it, how often do you think he's going to help you? Or if you send him to the grocery and he picks up a different size than what you wanted or a different brand, and you berate him, do you think you're going to get his cooperation in helping you again? No. So there are 5 steps to delegation. 1, decide what to delegate. And list the tasks to be done and decide which ones can be done by someone else. Everything doesn't have to be done by me. Someone else is quite capable of doing some of the things. One of the things we must do is fully describe the task, the expected results, and others who will be involved and their roles. Agree on performance standards and timetables for completion. Communication is the key to success. It's vital throughout the delegation process. It is critical when making key assignments. 2, decide who will do the task. Match the person's abilities with the task requirements. Does the person have the knowledge needed to do the task? Do they need some special training or help to accomplish the task? Well, if so, provide it. Identify resources, materials, information, and the budget available. Are they motivated? If they don't believe in the project or they aren't interested, it's very unlikely that the task will be accomplished. Are they able? Do they have the time available to devote to the task? They may have many other tasks that they just don't have the time right now. So it helps if you prepare a report timetable, state the amount and the frequency of the progress reports desired. 3, assign responsibility for specific task or activity to a team member. And make sure the member accepts the assignment. Too often we give the project to a team member a task, and we expect that they're going to do it because we asked them to, whereas we did not get the feedback that, yes, they will do this. And 4, be sure that you grant them the authority. Do they have to check in and have the approval if an item is cost over $1,000? Make sure that they know that, but give them the let them know the amount of authority that's being delegated, and be sure that they know that from the very beginning. And 5, establish accountability. You must hold your team members accountable for completing the tasks that they agreed to do. And if they don't do it and you step in and do it yourself, do you think you're going to get their help? No. So follow up regularly on progress reports. Talk about the successes and the problems. If you aren't making mistakes, you aren't learning. So every mistake is not a tragedy, it's a learning opportunity. Then after the project is completed or as it's going along, recognition. What do you want to encourage? If you harp on the mistakes, that is what you're going to get more of. If you want good achievement, then you must recognize what they did right. And not only tell them what they did right, but tell them how much it meant to you and to the organization. And there's different ways that you can praise, maybe in the mental area. It's just amazing the way you kept the project on schedule. Thank you very much. And you must use you, what you did, not I. You. Praise in a social area. Your camaraderie with your team members brought a level of commitment to this project that wouldn't have been there without you. And you can let me know whether or not you thought, yeah, that would make me feel good, or I don't believe it. Or maybe praise in the spiritual area, that thank you for your integrity. I know I can trust you. What are the benefits? A more involved and empowered workforce, which increases productivity and quality, and it also reduces cost. And there's more innovation, and you must be cautious not to shoot the members' ideas down before giving the team a chance to consider them. If you're ever doing brainstorming, you have all the ideas being thrown out, and do not discuss them until the ideas, everyone has come up with their ideas, and then you go through and discuss them if you want greater commitment from your team members. And be sure that the team members are involved and allowed to contribute to its success. When they are more involved in the problem solving, they develop a sense of ownership. They're interested in this project being completed. And when people feel important and needed, they do their best. And I believe in the old law of the echo. You get back what you give out, and you have benefits as a leader when you delegate to empower. This frees up your time for maybe other pressing matters. And it develops a more creative and successful organization as a whole. Let them know we win as a team and we lose as a team. We don't have individual stars. And if you're going to be a successful leader, take the time to develop delegation skills spelled out today. And where can you do that? A Toastmasters place is an ideal place to begin. You can volunteer to be a committee member. You can volunteer to be a club officer. We give you a safe environment where it's okay, you learn from your mistakes. And to become a strong, competent leader, face the challenge to delegate to empower. Learn from your successes and failures when you empower others. And as you empower others, you empower yourself. Mr. Toastmaster.
All the education in the world won't help you get ahead in life if you can't express your ideas effectively. Every day, competition for advancement gets tougher and tougher. You need an edge. A Toastmasters Club can give you that edge. A low-cost learning experience for men and women. Toastmasters gives you the confidence to express your ideas to anyone. Get the Toastmasters edge.
I think delegation is a rather difficult ability to acquire, to master, because you're always taking risks when you do it. And you learn quite a bit by doing it. And the people who you delegate responsibilities to also learn quite a bit. And I think the other thing a person has to recognize is that you are going to have some instances where it won't work as well as you had thought. But that's a learning opportunity both for the individual, if it would be me that's doing the delegating, as well as the person who had the task delegated to them. I like to think of the one quote, and I don't remember who to attribute it to, but it said, "He or she who manages best manages least." And I think all of us can relate to some of the frustrations with micromanagement. At this point in time, we're going to move on to the evaluation component of our meeting. This is an opportunity for us to hear feedback from people as far as how the meeting has progressed, the presentations that we've heard so far, what we're doing well, and what are our growth areas. Our general evaluator for today is Nellie Bowen, competent leader. And I will ask Nellie to come up here and introduce her evaluation group. Nellie?
Mr. Toastmaster. Well, I think we've had an excellent meeting today. One thing I enjoyed was the word power and also the joke master. I have often thought that it must be terribly difficult for someone to learn the English language as a second language, because with words meaning what they don't seem to mean, I wonder how they ever learn it. But Carol, you gave an excellent report on that, and I enjoyed it thoroughly. On table topics, I always enjoy David Lather. We have some...
Dan Lather.
Oh, I'm sorry. Who did I call you?
David.
Dan, I'm sorry. Dan's one of my favorite names. And I thought that was interesting. The purpose of table topics is to make you be able to think on your feet. You have to think fast. You hear a question and you're trying to formulate a 1 to 2 minute speech in your mind to answer that question, and you'd have no idea what the question's going to be before you hear it, and then you've got to come up with that answer. On Carol, your speech, delegation is much more important than we ever realize it is. Delegation determines the course of history, if you think about it. If David Eisenhower, General Eisenhower, hadn't been able to delegate, if he had tried to run the whole battle, D-Day, all by himself, how could he have done it? And yet, if that had been successful, the world would have been a completely different place, and we would have been under Nazi rule all these years, and we would all be speaking German. Our president also has to be able to delegate, and the people that he selects to delegate authority to and to give him input on different topics determines what he does in his presidency and what course our nation takes. So that affects not only us, but the rest of the world. So delegation is extremely important. And today we're not having a special evaluator for Carol, but thank you, Carol. You explained an awful lot to us, and I enjoyed it. And Mr. Toastmaster?
Thank you, Nellie. I think what we could do at this point in time, if the group would like, is to share some evaluation comments with Carol. Would you like to do that, or Carol? Would you like to have us share some of our perspectives on your presentation? Okay. Did everyone have a chance to write down some comments or areas that they would like to share with Carol? Do you want me to call everybody up here individually? Would that be the best way to handle it? Okay. I'll call Rick up here first.
Thank you for your talk, Carol. I really enjoyed your speech, and I really enjoy hearing about ideas about leadership, because that's one area that's very important to me. A couple comments that I had. One is that you talk about the 5 points, and you talk about TEAM, and you talk about, I guess there was another point you talked about, 6 points. I think it would have been very helpful if you had a flip chart that had those points on them and what TEAM spelled for or stood for, or if you had a handout that we could take with us. I think that would be very helpful for us to recall this information at a later time. So that's the only comment that I have. I enjoyed your talk. Steve?
Thank you, Rick. let's see, you gave your comments. Joel, did you have any comments concerning Carol's presentation that you'd like to share with us? Okay, Joe Buell.
Hello, Mr. Ahrenholz. Thank you very much, distinguished members of this wonderful club, and Carol Kormelink. There are a number of things that I think I should say because I like your speech so well. We need more attention to leadership, and particularly the kind of leadership that you proposed. We live in a world of domination, and if a leader is to be a leader, he needs to dominate. But actually, the word is not dominate, but that's the way it's taken. The word is influence, influence by example. And you were quite in the point of that one. The great leaders are not dominators like Saddam Hussein and Adolf Hitler. They're more like a Churchill and the rest of them, to say the least. You had great enunciation. The one point of perhaps improvement, it is not important improvement, it's just that it hits me a little bit every time I hear you say a speech. In an effort to give a scintillating effect to your talk, you become a little squeaky at times. And it's an effort to overemphasize the interest that you have. You're naturally an interested and enthusiastic person, but that could be overdone a little bit. So for a person like you, who is naturally enthusiastic, trying to emphasize it overdoes it. So I maybe a little bit on that one. Excuse me, we're not supposed to say "oh," so erase that part. And the secret of saying a speech is not reading a speech or using a note. As real public speaking is more of a teacher's job. And in that regard, you don't need to remember what's in the speech. To read it, you have to speak from the heart. So, and you've done great strides on that, Carol. I remember the first speeches you made, and boy, it's come a long ways, my friend. Mr. Ahrenholz, thank you very much.
Can I have my agenda, please, Joel? Thank you. I have a few comments, too, that I'll share with you. Carol, I thought it was an interesting presentation. I did enjoy hearing it very much. You also bring an enthusiasm to the presentation that you conveyed throughout your entire presentation. One of the things that I would have liked to have seen, or actually it's heard, you have vocal variety for emphasis, but I think you could have had a little greater range of vocal variety. One of the other things that I noticed was that your pace was quite rapid. I think some judicious pauses would have helped emphasize some of the points that you had. I think that some of the comments that Rick and Joel had were also very good because you presented a lot of material, and I was thinking there were 5 points. When Rick said there were 6, I thought, okay, I was having a little trouble keeping track of how many points you actually presented. At the end of your speech, your closure, I think it would have been helpful to just at least reiterate those points to reinforce what you've gone through. I thought you did accomplish the purpose of your talk. I also got a chance to see how you used some of our discussion last night. Carol did call me up to ask me some of my thoughts on delegation. I haven't been practicing it for that many years, and it is a challenge because you are taking risks and you do have to let people do the work. You're telling them what you want done, but the how is up to them, and that depends upon the individual as to what kind of guidance you'll give them. At this point, we need to hear from our grammarian and counter, and I will also need a timer's report. So I'm going to turn it back to Nellie, who is our general evaluator for this, to introduce the last two evaluators that will be giving us the grammarian counter report and the timer report. Nellie?
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster. The purpose of a grammarian and counter report. The grammarian report is to help us use correct grammar. And that's something many of us learned in school way so many years ago, but a lot of times you don't think about it after that, but it's extremely important. And if you notice, a lot of times you find mistakes in printed material. But the counting is ahs and ums and similar words are used as fillers. You see that an awful lot with top speakers on television, newscasters, tip-top ones, ah and I thought if you'd been in Toastmasters, you wouldn't do that. But it irritates people. You're trying to think, and you don't want that dead space. We feel it's wrong to have just nothing said. It's frightening. We have to say something, and so we teach that you should not do that, and that's why we keep track of it. It helps us improve our speaking ability. Our, I didn't say it, did I? I hope not. Our grammarian is Carol Kormelink. Carol?
Thank you, Nellie, General Evaluator. For the grammarian report, I just have one thing to say. Have you ever visited someone who lives by a train track and the train goes roaring by and you go, oh, how can you live by that track and how can you stand that train? And they go, what train? Well, when I am very interested in what people are saying, I don't pay that much attention. I would have missed Joe's if he hadn't brought it up. So I heard one from Joe that he pointed out. I heard one from Nellie. I did not hear any other ums, because I was so interested in what people had to say. I was glad the word of the day was an easy word that we could all use, scintillating. Everyone used scintillating, so I appreciate that we were able to work that in. And that is my grammarian report.
Thank you, Carol. Our timers report will be given by Joe Buell. And the purpose of a timer is speeches have a certain time element. And it teaches us to keep within that time frame. So everything that is done is more concise, more to the point. It's like a newspaper article. You can't just write that and have a page. You have a certain amount of space in writing. You have a certain amount of timing for a speech. And we're taught to stay within that. We have over time of 30 seconds. You can go over the set time by 30 seconds. But other than that, that's all we get. You keep it within that time frame. So Joe, will you tell us how we did on the timing? This. Mm-hmm.
My summary here may not be too accurate because my clock is a Puerto Rican clock and it's a different time setup. No, I'm just kidding. Times that happens, okay. But on the timer on Tabletopics, I was clocked at 7 seconds, and that has to be the shortest doggone speech I have ever given. I don't think even answering my beloved wife is shorter than that. Carol had 41 seconds. Steve had 48. And Nelia had 1:11. I clocked this introduction to the speech, Carol's speech, at 5 minutes, plus a little bit, give or take. And that's the Puerto Rican side. I was Steve Ahrenholz. I don't know what it was allocated for your introduction, but it was 5+ minutes. Okay, that's about all I have in here that I caught. I was so interested in the dissertations that I missed most of the other. Of course, there's not very many others. So that's it. Thank you very much for giving me the chance to time you up. Return to the evaluator or the Toastmaster. Return it to the Toastmaster, or how do you do this in this club?
Have you done your general evaluation of the meeting? Yes. Okay.
So back to the Toastmaster. Mr. Ahrenholz.
Thank you, Joe. Yeah, the word of the day, scintillating, lent itself to use during our meeting quite well. A little more applicable than oniric, which was the word of the day for one of our other meetings. Oniric is an adjective describing dreamy or dreamlike, and the adverb form is onirically. I'll leave it up to you to figure out how to spell it if you want to look it up. I'm going to turn back our meeting to our president, Rick Davis. Rick?
Thank you, Steve. And thank you all for a very fun meeting. Our next meeting is going to be here at the Cable Studios on September 28th at 9:30, 21st, I'm sorry, Saturday, September 21st at 9:30 a.m. And I think what we need to do is we will end the meeting right here, and then we will discuss roles at the next meeting. So thank you all, and we'll see you next time.